It is the Blitz, 1250 ESPN San Antonio, 94.5 FM, and the new ESPN San Antonio app. He is Dat Win. I'm Jason Minix. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys with the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett, joining us now, courtesy of AA Best Bail Bonds at 225-2121, 225-2121, or online at mybestbailbonds.com. Coach, before we get into last night's game, I want to ask you about some comments that Stephen Jones made on the radio today up in Dallas about Dez Bryant. Stephen Jones says that Dez could be back for the Giants game after the bye, saying there's a real shot he could play against the New York Giants. Can you update us on the status of Dez Bryant?
Yeah, we've been optimistic about Dez's recovery from his surgery right from the start. So I think initially we said 6 to 8 weeks, and that was roughly the timetable. We'll take his situation day by day, and we'll hopefully he can continue to improve and get out on the practice field and go. We're not optimistic about him playing this week against New England. We have a bye next week, and then hopefully he'll continue to make progress, and we'll see if he's available for that game.
Coach, you're going to have a couple players coming back, Orlando McClain and also Greg Hardy from the suspension and coming back. What are the chances of them going to play this week? Because guys that are away for about 3-4 weeks usually get out of football shape. Or are we expecting them to dress out and play against the Patriots this weekend?
Well, I think we're optimistic on both of them. We want to get them back in here and get them acclimated to playing again. Rolando has been around with his suspension. He's been allowed to be around our building, so he's been rehabbing and getting himself in shape. Greg has not been here, but we anticipate both guys coming in tomorrow with the players and spending some time, in our walkthrough tomorrow leading up to practice on Wednesday. And, we'll see how they are. We'll get them back in there gradually, but we do anticipate them practicing this week and hopefully getting them ready to play.
Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on ESPN San Antonio. Last night, obviously, a disappointing loss. I know Jerry Jones struggled after the game finding the right words to describe it, but you look at defensively in the second half where it just seems like, especially in overtime, with all the injuries, was it difficult for you as a coaching staff making sure you had guys in the right positions or guys that could be able to play the positions you had them in?
Well, injuries are a part of the game, and the injuries leading up to the game and then the injuries within the game, you just have to handle them, and you have to hopefully construct your roster in such a way that you can absorb those and you can put a guy in there that you have confidence in. And it's most challenging when they happen during the game because you have to make the adjustments on the move. But I thought our guys competed well, they battled well. They obviously did a lot of good things at the end of the ball game offensively to give them a chance to win the game. So we have to continue to look at that and try to get better. But the guys who are available to us are the guys we're going to play with, and we're going to battle and fight, do everything we can to win a ball game.
And then one guy you're losing for the season is Lance Dunbar. Who's that unique player? He's one of those guys that is a running back, but he's really a running back receiver / does a lot of stuff, very explosive for you in the passing and the running game. The replacement can't be just one guy, and if that's going to be the replacement, who's going to get the first nod to replace Lance Dunbar on the third downs, Coach?
Well, each of the guys that we've been playing, Joe Randall and Darren McFadden and Lance, they're all capable of playing on all three downs. So we would initially anticipate just Joe and Darren taking some of those responsibilities. But, Lance has been such a good player for us since he got here, and he's gotten more and more opportunities here the last couple of years, and certainly off to a great start this year. And he has so much football ahead of him. He's such a young player, and he's got so much promise going forward. He'll get that knee healed up. He'll work hard to come back the right way, and he'll be better than ever.
Is it official? Is that a torn ACL?
We do anticipate it being an ACL injury, so we're still getting the results back from the MRI today to see what the extent of everything is, but that's what we anticipate right now.
Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on the Office Furniture Express hotline. And, Coach, you bring up Joseph Randall. It was obvious to everybody watching the game last night you weren't happy with him leaping down there on the goal line, and looked like, at least for a short while, you benched him for the rest of the half, and he didn't get many plays in the second half either. You're running back by committee rotation, especially with Joseph Randall. Where does that stand right now?
Well, those guys are going to play. Obviously, Joe has been a big part of what we've done up to this point this year, as has Darren, as has Lance Dunbar. And, that play that you're referring to was a situation that happened last week against Atlanta. Very similar situation down at the goal line where Joe went over the top, and we got the touchdown out of it. But sometimes the ball security can be a real issue when you launch over the top, and the ball got dislodged a little bit last week and again last night, and each of those ended up being scores. But we believe as a coaching staff there's a better way to do it, and Joe instinctively does that because he's done that really throughout his life, and we're trying to break him of that habit, and that's really what that was all about. Fortunate for us that we're able to score that touchdown there nonetheless, and we wanted to get the other guys opportunities. Christine Michael was going to take some of the short yardage opportunities for us in this ball game. He got one in the second half. Darren played, and then Joe was back in there. So, we want to continue that rotation, try to put those guys in the position where they can be most productive.
The offensive line has been getting criticized just a little bit for not being as dominant as it was a year ago. A lot of people don't understand that the effect that Dez Bryant has on that running game, that helps the running game because you can't cheat that extra safety or extra helper inside the box to slow down the running game. Can you share just a little bit how all that works together to help the fans or the audience to know that the offensive line is doing a heck of a job, but without Dez Bryant, he does so much for your team that it helps the running game as well as a receiver?
Yeah, I think anytime you can attack a defense different ways, that can really be challenging to a defense. And I think when you have players like Dez and Jason Witten and Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley and some of the other guys attacking the defense, it's hard for them to kind of gear up and try to stop the run. I think as much as anything else, the attention that Dez gets breaking the huddle, oftentimes they put two guys on him, and that takes one guy out of the box to defend the run. And when he's not there, I think teams are more apt to play one-on-one coverage outside. And that's why it was so important for us last night to continue to try to isolate those receivers outside and make some plays to force them to give those guys some attention. And we did make some plays as the game wore on. Weeds threw a great pass down the left-hand side to Bryce Butler, and then the big touchdown to Terrence on the fourth down to tie the game. So anytime you can threaten them outside with anybody, that's really going to make your running game that much better.
Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on ESPN San Antonio, brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds. And, Coach, you look at the second half last week against Atlanta, and aside from that 2-minute drive when you went 91 yards for the touchdown to Terrence Williams, the offense hasn't been near as productive in the second halves as in the first half. Is that adjustments that the Falcons and the Saints made in the second halves to slow that offense down?
Well, you're always making adjustments throughout the game, really almost between series. You always talk about what went on in the previous series and what you want to get to, and, you do that in all three phases of your team. So the adjustments are constant throughout a game, and what we need to do a better job of is just being balanced offensively, being able to run the football in the second half, and also being able to make some big throws. And we made some big throws in the second half yesterday. The long one to Bryce, and then the touchdown late to T-Dub. Those are big plays, and those changed the game. So those were positive for us, especially when a team's loading up against the run like the Saints were.
Coach, when you play in defense last night, it seemed like they made some plays early in the game, had a lot of chances, and there was a lot of missed opportunities. Those missed opportunities could really change into the game. Do you use that often to show the players that when you get those opportunities, you never know when it's going to be, but you got to seize that moment in order to win those kind of games?
Absolutely, and so many of those that you're referring to have to do with the football. And when you get a chance to have a quarterback like Drew Brees throw you a couple, you got to take advantage of it. And we had some opportunity to intercept the ball. We actually had one interception that was called back because of a defensive holding penalty. And those chances don't come very often when you play against a guy like that. And when you get them, you got to take advantage of them. We didn't do that well enough last night.
Cowboys coach Jason Garrett here on ESPN San Antonio. Last week you scored 28 points against the Falcons, which should be enough to win most games. Last night against the Saints, you felt like that was a game that the Cowboys should win. Are you guys at a frustration level at this point that you've lost two games that most people felt like you should have won?
Well, we have great respect for the teams we played. Obviously, the Falcons are off to one of the best starts in the league. They're 4-0, so that's a good football team. And, Saints with their backs to the wall, they were 0-3 going down to their place. So we understand the challenges every week. And, what we need to do is do the things that winning teams do. And we recognize that. We understand that. And, we need to make some stops on defense. We need to make some plays on offense, towards the end of the ball game to allow us to win the game and do something in the kicking game that tips the balance towards us. And, we recognize all that, and we'll learn from both those experiences and get ready for New England this week.
And talking about New England, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, they've been together for a long time, and it seems like every time we get a chance to play those guys, it's always a challenge because they've been so good for so long. When you look into this matchup coming up this weekend, what are you looking forward to against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady?
Well, they're obviously a great football team, and arguably as good a coach as there's ever coached in the NFL, and as good a quarterback as ever played in the NFL. And they've been so good for so long, and it's not by accident. They do things the right way. They play at a really high level, so they have a lot of weapons. Brady knows how to use them. They play good, sound, solid defense. They force you to be error-free as you drive the football down the field, and their special teams seems to consistently contribute. So they're a well-coached team with a lot of really good players, and they've been successful for a reason. So we got to prepare really well this week and go play our best ball.
Will Sean Lee be available on Sunday, do you think?
Certainly optimistic about that. He seemed to be in good shape last night after the game, and then by all accounts he's doing well today. So feel good about what his progress is. He'll be in the concussion protocol, but we're optimistic about him being able to play.
And I know you said Dez won't play Sunday against the Patriots. A lot of concern and a lot of the reaction when Stephen Jones made his comments earlier that he might be back for that game against the Giants is why and are the Cowboys rushing Dez Bryant to get back on the field? Why not keep him on a similar timeline and have him return when Tony Romo does?
Oh, I think they're two different injuries. You deal with those situations differently. And really, when Dez is healed up and ready to play, that's when he's going to play. And it's the same thing with Tony. Really the same thing with any player on our team. So we're not going to rush anybody back. We're going to bring them back at the appropriate time. We're going to make sure they're ready to go in the practice field before we put them out there in the game field. But, if they're healed up and ready to go, we want them out there. And we anticipate that with both Dez and Tony at some point here in the next few weeks.
Good deal. Coach Jason Garrett, always appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys. Have a great week.
All right, good luck, Coach.
Coach Jason Garrett, brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds, 225-2121, 225-2121.